Hello everyone and welcome back to Ejector Productions. Manufacturers can make all sorts of elements. They can even make airtime, which is amazing. It is my favorite part of a coaster. So today we will be breaking down every manufacturer's strongest airtime moment. Also, quick note before we start the intro, this will include stuff that I've not ridden, so I will be judging it on how I predict how strong it will be and other people's opinions. So we will be breaking down the list from worst manufacturer to best manufacturer. The first manufacturer we will bring up is RCCA. Although they only made wooden coasters, I'm pretty sure 6 of them. As far as I'm aware, none of them have any airtime, which is why they are not included in this video. Another one that's similar to RCCA, and it has only builds wooden coasters, but never has featured any airtime as far as I'm aware, is the Ridden Corporation. And I will break down the final ones that have absolutely no airtime. Skyline Attractions has no airtime because Tile Twister, no. The Skywarps, no. And then the one at the Art Museum, no. And the Kitty Flash Coasters, no. And then for Zamperla, it's just as far as I'm aware, no. So anyway, we will kick things off with Togo, in fact. So basically, as far as I'm aware, they have only one airtime pop in the U.S. since they only have one coaster in the U.S., and that is the Big Apple coaster at New York Casino that I will actually be riding on the 31st of August. No spoilers, we're going to Vegas on the 31st of August. So basically, the airtime moment that I wanted to point out on here is the weird hill after the dive loop. So basically, after it goes into the weird wonky dive loop, you go into an airtime hill that I heard gives some pretty decent flitter airtime. The next one I will be bringing up is Dynamic Attractions. So their only airtime moment on any of their coasters is on Mission Ferrari at Ferrari World in Abu Dhabi. Basically, after the first launch, you're going to go into a speed hill and then go into like the dive loop thing, I'm pretty sure. So that is your one airtime moment. I don't know how strong it is. Barely any people have been there besides Coaster Studios and other people like Canopy Coaster. So the next one I'd like to bring up is Chance Rides. So obviously they have actual airtime on their coasters, and the strongest by far is probably the Lightning Run at Kentucky Kingdom, just its run of airtime hills at the end. I heard it's like really strong. So next up is Art Engineering. So I actually have not heard many reviews for their 2 throwing coasters. No, Wicked is not art. Anyway, I have not heard many reviews for Cannibal, but based on how the POV looks, it looks like that first drop is awesome, gives some crazy sustained ejector, especially because it has flat bars. So anyway, next up is Mauer. This isn't even close. Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket, a couple days ago, just got closed early, and now is getting taken down like crazy. Already half of the track is gone in the destruction of Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket, which is very sad. I really wanted to ride it. It looks awesome, but by far the most intense airtime moment they've ever done is the non-inverting loop on Hollywood Rip Ride Rocket. So basically, that looks like it gives some crazy sustained ejector, and that is by far the most airtime on any Mauer coaster. Now for Zero, you have the 2 tower coasters and not much on the thrill slide besides that. The one I'd like to point out from Zero is the launch one because you take more speed over that. And it people say that it gives crazy sustained ejector when you're on your way down on Wicked at Lagoon, which is why I'd like to make that the nomination, like the first drop after the launch up the tower. So anyway, next up on our list is CCI. They have manufactured some great wooden coasters, some of our favorites today. Most of them have gotten retracked by GCI, including Ghost Rider, and that's what's on this list. So I'd say the best element on Ghost Rider by far is the drop off the mid-course, and that means it is the strongest airtime moment for CCI also. Next up is PTC. So the one I'd like to point out for this, they've made some pretty old coasters, and the one I'd like to point out for this is Zippin' Pippin' at Bay Beach in Green Bay, Wisconsin, the Ejector Death Hill. It is absolutely insane. Like, I heard it can give up to 1.6 negative G's, which is crazy. Next up is Gerstlauer. So on hang time, basically, you go through like all the classic elements, the beyond vertical drop, then the non-inverting loop, then the 0G winder, and then you go through the cutback. And then after that cutback, you have some amazing ejector airtime on the step down towards the Cobra roll, and then you're going to go into the brakes. Now, Gerstlauer barely has any airtime, and the one I'd like to point out from that is the step down before the Cobra roll that I just talked about. I've ridden this one, unlike most of the others, and it is insane. Like, that is the only reason that it is in my top 10 right now. That hang time is. So basically, next up on this list is Morgan & Morgan, and they've made some pretty weak hypercoasters, and you could probably point out any of their hypercoasters if they don't have the trims on, but I'm pointing out Steel Dragon 2000 because it consistently gives some pretty good flitter airtime and ejector airtime on that finale. So yeah, that is a wrap on Morgan. Now for Schwarzkopf. What I'd like to point out is, like, on their some old loopers, like, you have some crazy ejector airtime. For example, like on Flashback at Six Flags over Texas. Now I heard, like, one of the drops, you like get pinned into the lap bar to the point where it hurts. So, which is crazy, and that is definitely some cueing for crazy ejector airtime. So that is what I picked for Schwarzkopf. Now SNS, this is obviously no contest. Maybe you can put in the 4D coasters, but the one I picked for this is their first coaster, Hypersonic XLC, now defunct, at King's Dominion. This went up the top hat at like 80 miles an hour, and they didn't care how tall it was, so like they didn't put any design thought into it. But so it resulted in probably negative 2 Gs, which is crazy. And the next one I want to point out is Premier Rides. They have some pretty good airtime consistently, but the one I want to point out is another one I've ridden. Full Throttle, the drop off the camelback over the loop. That is some crazy ejector airtime in the back row, and I love it because it's just so sustained and it's so intense. And the next one is Mock Rides. Now, this probably would be something on Ride to Happiness, like maybe the speed hole in the second launch. But now, I'd like to point out all of the hills on Stardust Racers. Those looks like some crazy sustained ejector airtime, which is crazy. So yeah, that is what I'd like to point out for Mock Rides. And it just looks so insane. I can't get over how insane that looks. And anyway, next up on this list is Arrow. Now, they have made, like, inversion heavy rides. And I don't think, they might not have any airtime, but I consider X2's first real drop in the back row, some crazy sustained ejector airtime. I don't know if anyone agrees with me. Fight me with that in the comments. But anyway, I think X2 has some crazy sustained ejector airtime off the first real drop, the one that like goes vertical in the back row. And that is what I put on this list because, in my opinion, it is Arrow's only airtime moment. Next up is Vekoma. They used to have like no airtime moments on their old models. The one that goes backwards, whatever it's called, the Boomerang and the SLC. But now they're expanding with their new age, and they still don't have a lot of airtime, but the one I'd like to point out is probably the Super Boomerangs, like the one in Taiwan and the one in and the one at Six Flags Great Adventure that opened this year, the Flash. The double up before the second spike before you go backwards into the layout is crazy. And that is what I put for Vekoma's strongest airtime moments. So next up is GCI. I'd say Mystic Timbers. They don't have anything too strong if you don't count their retracts and the times when they put Millennium Flyers on old CCIs. So in that case, I would put Mystic Timbers at Kings Island. I heard it has some pretty great floater airtime. Borderline Ejector, and I don't know which one of them is the strongest, so I'll just put all the hills on Mystic Timbers. Next up is the Gravity Group. I mean, same with GCI. They don't have a lot of crazy ejector moments, but I think the ones that they might have are like maybe on the Voyage at Holiday World. Maybe that has some crazy ejector. I haven't heard that many reviews about it. But the one I want to talk about here is Boardwalk Bullet at Kima Boardwalk in Texas. So I heard that is crazy airtime, and it is just so insane. So next up is B&M. Same with Gravity Group and GCI. They mainly only have floater airtime, but when they do have ejector airtime, it rips. I heard Fury 325 on its normal hills has like crazy ejector, and I heard that it is just absolutely unhinged. So the next manufacturer is Intamin. I mean, you could pick a lot of stuff for this. Maybe something on Velocicoaster, maybe something on El Toro like the Rolling Thunder Hill. Anything, probably. But the one I pick is Velocicoaster's Mosasaurus roll. I know you think that inversions can't give airtime, but I heard that they can. Upside down ejector. Upside down ejector. I heard Velocicoaster has crazy upside down ejector airtime, and that is what I'm picking for it. So the last manufacturer on this list, the best manufacturer in the world by far, is Rocky Mountain Construction, or RMC for short. All of their coasters are airtime heavy, giving ejector sustained, I don't know, a bunch of crazy madness. But the one I want to pick for this, you could probably pick anything that RMC has done relating to ejector airtime. But what I will pick for this is Steel Vengeance's Finale. The way you just like go up and down those airtime hills, that looks like the craziest ejector in the world. Maybe it's negative 1.7 Gs, which is crazy. And that is a wrap on today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget we are merging with Coaster Shake on September 3rd. He will start posting like compilations or whatever you call it of all of his playlists, and his final real video will be basically a vlog in Vegas, and it will come out on the 2nd of September, and on the 3rd of September he will post his final video at the end of Coaster Shake. So thank you for watching. Please go sub to Coaster Shake, although he will be wrapping up in a couple weeks. And if you're from Coaster Shake and got recommended here, then thank you, and please subscribe if you already have not, and thank you for watching today's video. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Bye!